Hey babies, it's your favorite host, Mr. BMG, back at it again with another episode. Let's get into it. Anyway, babies, I hope you've been having an amazing week and that you're ready to get into all of this juicy mess and that you look forward to coming to, these gossip sessions and, catch up on all of the mess that happened in the week. So I'm happy to, be your official bone carrier, if you will. And I know that you're going to have a good time and that this Memorial Day weekend is going to be so much fun, and this is just the beginning. So yeah. So an interesting story I found was how essentially Chris Brown was arrested in Manchester in the United Kingdom, and these apparently or allegedly he was arrested due to some charges or some altercation that he had back like a few years ago with a person there. And so I guess there may have been a warrant out for his arrest, and when essentially he arrived to the space, then they just arrested him. So for me, like, whenever I think of Chris Brown and like some of the things that happened to him, sometimes I can't help but feel like he's that person who's always making so much progress, and he's always just like in a positive space. So he's celebrating his 20th anniversary tour, and so he's preparing for that, and that's sort of the positivity and that energy he's sort of been feeding into the atmosphere. And then somehow I always just feel like his past catches up with him, because he's obviously had a few moments of, not the best behavior in his past, and for some reason it always just catches up with him every single time, like karma really never misses Chris Brown, like ever. And it's never convenient, but it's just always kind of coming to fetch him. So in some ways I always kind of feel bad, because it's like, well, just when he had just won a Grammy, just when he, was planning his tour and all of that stuff, this happens. On the one hand, though, I do feel like maybe, the arrest was orchestrated, maybe, you never know, because look, he does have tour dates for Manchester later on this year. So maybe he caught wind of the fact that there's a warrant out for his arrest, so he might as well just go and do that process now and then be held for however long he's held and then get out, because at some point, I know obviously they're going to release him, but that would be well in advance of the tour dates that he may have planned to have, because I'm not sure when he was planning on going to Manchester, but I know he obviously had tour dates for the United Kingdom and England and all of that stuff. So on the one hand, I do feel like maybe this was all planned to happen that way. Then imagine he's coming to do the tour and then he gets arrested, you know what I mean? So yeah, on the one hand, maybe this happening now was for his best good and he can sort of move on from it. But yeah, shame, no, he really can't seem to catch a break ever. Like, something always comes back to bite him every single time without fail. Like, I'm not particularly sort of familiar with all of the details that happened in terms of leading up to, why there was a warrant or why essentially he got arrested. But I guess for me, my point of interest is more so for the fact that he's on tour, and he's sort of been seeking greener pastures, and in some ways has been on a self-worth journey, in the sense that when he went and toured in South Africa last year and filled up that 90,000 capacity stadium twice, I think there was something that obviously awakened in him and made him realize that, oh my goodness, I am extremely influential. I have equity in this world, and I have supporters who are willing to come to my events and watch me perform, essentially. So he realized if he has that much reach in Africa, South Africa, obviously that same energy and pent-up demand for him exists in other parts of the world. So going on this 20th anniversary tour could not have come at a better time. And obviously this, legal process will take its course, and, the facts and circumstances, are only really particularly familiar to the people involved, so we can only speculate and just give our 2 cents as it relates to, the stuff that we generally have been talking about, which is this tour. So yeah, Chris Brown, I think maybe he just needs to go for like a cleansing. Like, maybe he just needs to be cleansed and washed and, go to a river somewhere and just really bathe in Mother Earth and, the water of the earth, and just turn a new page, because I feel like they just never fail to somehow get him in his tracks somehow. So yeah, but anyway, I hope that all of this resolves itself and that he's able to tour. Just before he got arrested, Chris Brown posted the whole Free Tory Lanez, and I guess that's actually just leading into the next story I wanted to get into after Chris Brown, which related to the fact that Tory Lanez was obviously arrested, allegedly because he had shot Megan Thee Stallion in the foot, whatever the case may be. But from everything that's coming out and why people are on this Free Tory Lanez campaign, because it wasn't just Chris Brown, Champagne Papi, i.e. Drake, also got onto the bandwagon and reposted the petition for him to be pardoned. So there's a lot of celebrities and star power that's kind of behind him getting released and him being acquitted or whatever the case may be. And the whole reason for this whole campaign apparently is due to the fact that, he may not have allegedly shot Megan Thee Stallion in the foot. Maybe it didn't happen, is why, there's this whole campaign. And so people are essentially trying to assist to vindicate him, because if he didn't do it and then he was shot in jail 14 times, he may have, not made it and been in jail for something that he may have not done, So I think that's also what sparked the interest in getting him free, is the fact that he's being attacked in this space. And now it's like people are probably paranoid and thinking, well, why is he being attacked? Is it, foul play? Are they trying to shut him up? Are they trying to, keep him from ever doing anything beyond just being where he is? So it's a very complicated situation. And if he is innocent, I do feel that he will be vindicated somehow. I do think vindication is always a guarantee. Everyone always gets their karma, and it was very polarizing because now you see the streets of the internet speaking about the fact that, well, now we want to cancel Megan, now we don't want to listen to her music. And personally, I've never been a big Megan Thee Stallion fan. Like, there are obviously a few tracks that I liked from her, and from what I've seen, I've just never really had a problem with her. I like the Savage song, I'm a savage, classy, bougie, ratchet, acting stupid. That song was like so much fun, but that's as far as I kind of went with, Hot Girl Meg. And other than the fact that I heard that she's opening a Popeyes store with like a customized menu, to, I guess, which is appropriate for her Hot Girl brand. So I see why she's doing that and why it's relevant. So good for you, Megan, for making those business moves. Was she telling the truth in this whole situation? And, free from guilt? We don't know that. We can only ever speculate. I obviously said I don't listen to her music, so she really became relevant when this story, which everyone's talking about, became relevant. So if it's all true and she was lying about the whole thing, that's going to do so much reputational damage on her part, and I know it's not going to be a good look. And who knows? Who knows the length of repercussions? Maybe it's a good thing she's opening up other businesses, because maybe the endorsement and support from the public will just turn on her. So maybe the music thing and the rapping thing, which I don't think she was ever really that great at, and is another example of why the Grammys are so problematic, because they just give everyone a Grammy. That'll be another reason why she may have to do something else, or somehow the public may forgive her if it comes out to be true and she will continue to make music. So yeah. Mamushi was also really good. I really liked, that song, I Get Money, I'm a star, 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 star. Another story I wanted to talk about was how Tyler Perry was seen at another Beyonce concert. Now, when I told you in the previous episode of the show, you need to go catch up if you haven't watched that, I did talk about Tyler Perry being at the Beyonce concert, but this was in Los Angeles, and now he's obviously on tour. He might as well be on tour with Beyonce at this point. But he went to the Chicago, installment of the show and was there front and center. What I always find interesting about Tyler Perry is he had a family. I think he's got a kid, I'm not sure, allegedly, and allegedly had a long time girlfriend of many years. I think 11 years apparently. But I've never ever seen him out with his family, ever. And obviously, like, a Beyonce concert is a fun experience, right? So maybe the argument will be, well, I didn't take my family because I like to keep my private life private, but it's a concert. I'm sure they want to enjoy themselves. That's why Beyonce's mother comes there, and Oprah Winfrey, and all these people who seemingly, even Prince Harry and Meghan were there, who seemingly have very private lives. Like, we don't really know much about their personal lives, even though they're public figures. But they're there with their families and they're enjoying. Obviously, they're in the VIP section, which cuts out maybe concerns about security, whatever the case may be. But also, Tyler Perry, sweetie, like, what? I don't see people being obsessively crazy and obsessed with Tyler Perry in the sense that they would come for him like that. I mean, obviously you do get crazies and stuff like that, but for me, all I say is that's if his excuse for not bringing his family and relatives to those parties is because of that, that's not an excuse, because I feel like there's maybe a deeper issue. So yeah, he never misses a Beyonce concert. What does that make him? I don't know, but I stand by what I said when I feel like I stand by what I said when I said that I do feel like the girl is one of the girls. She is one of the girls. She never misses a Beyonce concert. She is front and center and doing the choreography even better than the people on stage, honey. Nothing wrong with going to a Beyonce concert. I'm not typecasting any man who goes to a Beyonce concert, and asserting his sexuality or presuming his sexuality or assuming his sexuality based on the fact that she likes Beyonce. But the streets talk, and whenever I read the comments of, whenever I see the comments relating to Tyler Perry, whenever she's posting about something, it's just always to do with the fact that people always speculate about his sexuality, and with good reason. It's with good reason. I think for me, personally, my irritation sometimes is just the fact that I don't like people who don't live in their truth, especially when they work in creative capacities, right? And you don't owe us anything. You don't owe us coming out. That could be his private life. That is literally his life. And you don't have to come out, but you should be free to be whoever you want to be, with whoever you want to be in public, not having to come out, but you're just living your life. You're not writing a long, 3,000 word tweets with, threads and threads of follow-ups explaining your sexuality. You don't owe anyone anything about that. You just need to live your life. I think my concern is always when it looks like this person is not being authentic, because even if you are at the Beyonce concert, but you look so stiff and you look very much like you really want to give us choreo and fully execute that choreo and be within the beehive, but you're being stiff and you're kind of moving from side to side and just kind of nodding and shaking your head. For me, it just kind of looks like he's just not living his true authentic self. And I always have a problem with that, because often people like that tend to not be the most genuine, They just tend to not be the most genuine people. So it always feels like, what's missing from you? There's something off. It's like, I just wish you would just live your truth and be open about it, because you can see when somebody's being open. You can see when they are somewhat in a glass closet, and it's just so obvious, And again, there is that balance of he doesn't have to explain his sexuality, but I do feel like as a custodian of the arts for Black people and a person who loves to portray queer roles, and for some reason, whenever he portrays gay people, for the most part, they're always closeted, or they're always having issues with somebody or another queer person who's closeted. While those may be always the issues in general, but it's a recurring theme. For me, I always feel like he never really paints them in the best light. He either makes them excessively flamboyant, but in a way that's almost insulting, because I'm obviously flamboyant and queer and all of that stuff, but sometimes I feel like the way he paints queer people within his media isn't necessarily the most respectable way. They're either, really excessively flamboyant, but in a way that's kind of, you can see he's almost disrespecting the character, the way he wrote the character. For example, Maurice. I love Maurice, love. But all of the problems that he's been through with men, how he's portrayed, it's almost like how his femininity almost doesn't come off naturally, but it almost looks like maybe he was told to exaggerate his femininity within the role to make the gay role believable. And you don't have to exaggerate your femininity to make the gay role believable, or because it's almost like it comes across as if he's not necessarily respecting the queer dynamic. And maybe because he has, deep issues with his self-image, he may not necessarily know how to portray gay people. I don't think he's ever done it correctly, because he doesn't know how to represent himself to the world. If you don't know how to represent yourself, your queer identity to the world, how would you even begin to know how to represent it to everyone else? So that's my beef with Tyla. Get it together, girl. Life is too short for you to live in a closet your whole life. Also, he got rid of the beard. He obviously he's no longer with his baby mama, and so I feel like now that lays the groundwork for you to come out, sweetie. I need you to live your truth, and when you live your truth, it will show in the quality of the work that you produce and the way you represent the people of your community. And even if he comes out as not being queer, living his true authentic, whatever he is, living authentically in that truth will help him to see and respectfully and authentically tell the stories of other people. There's a very different way that Lee Daniels tells stories of queer people, that Carlos King tells stories of queer people, even though Carlos King doesn't really have queer people in a lot of his shows, but he lives in his authentic truth, and based on his interactions with people like Miss Lawrence and all of that stuff, it's not to minimize that talent, and I respect people like that. So Lee Daniels, Carlos King, and obviously many others, but yeah, I need the perception that he portrays queer people to change, and that may come from just him living his truth. Another interesting story, which is actually a follow-up from last week, is that Kimora Lee Simmons is apparently actually getting a show on the E! Network called Kimora, Back in the Fab Lane, which is so wild because last week I just was talking about how, yes, we saw Kimora at the Gold Gala and with her children, and she looked beautiful, giving us prime energy. But we were kind of remember we were talking about the fact that we could get another show. We're talking about the fact that maybe we could get another show from her, because what has she been doing? I think we're all concerned with, what's been going on with Kimora's life, who's she dating, who's she with, what is she doing for work, how are the children, and all of that. So it's interesting that we were talking about that, and now apparently the streets are saying she's getting her own show. She's actually getting a show. So I'm very excited to see, her back in the Fab Lane, and also seeing her kids playing out and doing the most within all of that, because that's the angle we want to see. It's a family woman, all these kids who are at the right age to be all over and, giving us great entertainment, great television. And I'm sure she's in a good space as well, So yeah, we definitely love to see all of that at play. And also, I low-key want to see some of the old cast members of, you know, Kimora Life in the Family. Like, is she still friends with them? Is she still friends with BJ? Is she still friends with her assistant? Is she still friends with the guy who, I forgot his name, but I think he was not her, he wasn't her assistant, but he was kind of in the creative capacity. But the one who was like, I was setting myself for what? You know? Him. It wasn't BJ, it was the other dude. Yeah, I want to know if they're still friends. I want to know, like, what the relationship with Russell's like and all of that stuff. So if it's true that Kimora is back on E back in the Fab Lane, then kudos to you. Clearly we manifested that for you, girl, and you better deliver and give us the best content. Apparently it's coming. It'll be on E later in the fall. So yeah, girl, we will definitely be watching. Another thing I wanted to talk about, or another story I wanted to talk about, is the whole DDG and Hailey. And apparently, like, you know, allegedly there's like a restraining order that was, you know, initiated by Hailey to DDG to sort of stay away, and there was violence and, you know, altercations apparently about, you know, well, I'm not sure what the reason was for, but essentially they've been having problems in their relationship. They have a child together, and, you know, apparently Hailey is filing for sole custody of the child and has also issued some type of restraining order to limit the interactions with this guy. And for me, it just really disappoints me on DDG's part, because if this is all true, you know, it's really just such a bad look. Because when I sort of saw his response to all of this, he kind of, I think he has a podcast or something, because I don't really follow him, but just because everyone's been talking about it this week, I'm just like, well, let me kind of do my little intel investigation in it. But essentially, when all of this broke out about the, you know, restraining order and, you know, filing of sole custody, he just posted the show must go on, and he's essentially kind of ignoring and dismissing everything. And I don't know if that's just to obviously protect himself and to get people to not talk about it and to focus on whatever he's doing. But people are going to focus on this whole story because it's a big story. I mean, domestic violence is never a good look, you know, and can literally get somebody cancelled. And let alone the fact that she is now filing to have, you know, sole custody. That's always like a damning thing, because it's like, what really happened is what everyone wants to know. What is going on is what everyone wants to know, because it's obviously smoke, which means there's obviously a fire somewhere. And I think because of that, he should care about it. He should talk about it, at least, even if it's a case of, well, this person is lying, you know. Talk about it, say something. But if you don't say something, you look even more guilty, you know, by not owning the narrative. So that always disappoints me, you know, when I see lack of engagement from somebody who, I mean, we don't know what happened, but may have been in the wrong or is being painted to look like they're in the wrong. If you're not disputing it, is it true? You just don't care. And if you don't care, that makes you a worse human being, to be honest, because that just means that you lack empathy, are not remorseful for your actions, and really are not just bothered. Like, you're just not bothered by everything that happened, or just don't care. And when there's a child involved, I'll definitely expect there to be a better conversation to be had. Tory Lanez was speaking about the fact that he didn't do it. He didn't just keep quiet, but he spoke about it. He's speaking about it now, and people are now sort of entertaining what he's saying. So if he's not speaking about it, then is he guilty? We don't know. Everything is all alleged. So yeah, it's not a good look. I think for me, what always bothers me is just the fact that it's just another poor example of, you know, badly behaved black guys. And when we're always trying to uplift the, you know, community, and always us collectively as black people trying to support each other and uplift each other and endorse each other for all of the good, there's just always somebody who's just acting out, and not in a good way. And unfortunately, Hailey had to be at the receiving end of that, you know, and whatever happened, own the narrative. I'm all for letting everything take its course and hearing both sides of the story, because always somewhere between both parties' versions is where the truth lies. So if you don't care enough to let people know of that, then I think people don't care enough to, or people may not care enough to vindicate you. I've yet to, in this whole blog, in this whole vlog, I've yet to speak positively about any black dude that I've been speaking about, because if it's not domestic violence, it's the whole, you know, going to jail thing. It's just a lot of negativity, and I hate that. I hate that that's how we have to speak about other black men, because, you know, if you've watched my video on catching flies when I told you when I was in New York City, yes, I was profiled by this dude on the Upper East Side who was running after me because he thought that I had his phone, and I didn't have his phone, because bitch, I face ID'd that fucking phone, and obviously it's mine. And just because I like to wear black and a beanie in the winter, as rightfully I should, does not make me, you know, criminalize my identity, you know, or, you know what I mean? So I always be like, we have every right to vindicate ourselves and to speak about why we feel the way we feel about certain situations, and to not just tolerate people to speak about us in any random way. So in this situation, in this scenario, I don't like that I have to speak about these men in this negative light, because it just always makes me feel like, don't give us a reason to. Talking about all of this in some ways makes me think about my preference in men. So obviously I like black guys. That's just my thing. I love me a black man. Love them. They're just who I'm attracted to and who I love and who I like. But for some reason, I've never really clicked with a black guy in terms of intellectually, spiritually, emotionally, and all of that. Yes, I'm physically attracted to them, but I've just never clicked with them on anything of substance. And that frustrates me, because it's like, well, when you're attracted to something but you can't necessarily connect with them on a deeper level, then like, where does that leave you with that? Like, where does that leave you with dating? How can you relate to a black man if the black man or the man is very much not making an effort or putting an effort in relating to you or understanding you, And that's always my gripe, because I'm like, well, maybe I should just expand my horizons and maybe look at dating white guys and, guys of a different race, whatever the case may be. I don't know, maybe that could be the answer. But I'm just not attracted to white dudes. Like, I'm just not attracted to them at all. So it makes it like very challenging to even think about those prospects. And I think also another reason, or another part of it, is that, well, just because you haven't connected with one does not mean you should write them off, And I think so maybe a part of me is just like not giving up on the idea that, there are some good black guys out there who will treat you right, who will, give you your flowers, who will be tender, who will be caring, who will be tactful, who will be, really delicate and teach you in the way that you needed to be treated, and respect you and honor you, and not be violent, and not be rude, and not be aggressive, and be emotionally intelligent, all the good things, and that you hope to find that in somebody of your own race. But looking at all of these issues relating to all of these people who are in the public, are going through all of this within the public, making it obviously worse, and the millions who are not in the public who are going through similar situations. It's just that they are not broadcast to the world because they're not public figures. Where is the towing line? Where's the fine line of not giving up on them, but also having the necessary conversations to get to a place of understanding and of respect and of love and, not of indifference? Because I do feel like just ignoring the issue, going back to DDG, just ignoring the issue, for me, it just looks emotionally unintelligent. It just looks like you don't know how to use your words. Another interesting story that I found, well, not very interesting really, but it's just everyone's been talking about, but the whole Diddy and Cassie case. So they're now in court, and a lot is coming out about it, and, just thinking about how, like, the journey we've been through with this whole Diddy court case, and the most that Diddy has done to so many people, and really how the moment of reckoning has come for him, and everything is kind of taking place in live and in color, and the most is happening. And I feel like essentially what most people have been talking about are, Cassie's reflections of, allegedly all of the stuff that she went through with this man. And we also that video where he was incredibly violent towards her. And, it's just really unfortunate that people who are afforded so much power in society misuse it and perpetuate the negative cycles of abuse, violence, and really manipulation, that make the entertainment industry really quite rotten, that they perpetuate those cycles. Because when you come across them, like when you come across Diddy in terms of just his media persona, he looks like this very friendly, gregarious guy, and everyone loves him, and he's puff, right? Everyone is just, he's got that charisma. But when you really deep down in his personal life, when you dig in, it's very ugly, it's incredibly ugly. And when Cassie details a lot of the stuff, and the nature of it is so graphic, and her allegedly having some infections from the whole processes, and the whole encounters, the freak-offs, and her essentially losing herself to substance abuse to cope with all of that, and submitting to this dude who has so much power over her career, and she is somewhat an extension of the substance abuse because she becomes addicted. And in some ways you can almost see, what is it, Stockholm syndrome, or that syndrome where in some ways you start to protect them. Like you see that in even the interactions, like some of the interactions that they leak, where she almost condones or almost starts to be complicit in it because she is powerless to not be, you know. And it is so devastating to see that. And some of the comments in the discourse that I've seen about it was just so disgusting, because I'm just like, well, if people disregard Cassie's version of events and are almost acting like she brought it upon herself, then who are we really living amongst as people? Like, what people are we living amongst who are condoning such behavior and vindicating somebody who really has all the money to be vindicated should they choose to, but doesn't need the public to also endorse them when clearly there's something that's not right that had happened, you know? And I think to make matters worse, also the fact that Cassie's pregnant and she's talking about this, you know, that must be also weighing on her. And yeah, man, like, just thinking about, apparently she had an affair with Kid Cudi or whoever she had an affair with, and somebody trashed her hotel room because of that. Obviously, like, it may have allegedly been like Diddy who caught wind of this and, you know, decided to retaliate in some way and play mind games, you know. It became very much about mind games and control and, you know, manipulation, which is what I'm seeing. And, you know, from what a lot of the accounts that people are saying, I mean, I know Diddy hasn't really taken to the stand or whatever, but it doesn't look like there's remorse. I know people are talking about how he was staring people down, you know, until they stopped staring at him, in a way that's kind of like, you know, I guess him trying to control the room and trying to assert his so-called power into the room by trying to stare people in a way that's sort of intimidating or awkward, to kind of feel like he's in control of the room. And that's at the root of his issues with Cassie. It's just him trying to literally control a human being and have them at their disposal and bark when they say, you know, bark. It's just really disgusting. And I'm really like going through all of it. Like, maybe they'll make like a whole movie out of this whole thing and it'll reach many different people. But from what I've been seeing, you know, a lot will be revealed, and this is only just the beginning. And yeah, Cassie has gone through a lot. Really, really gone through a lot. An interesting thing that I also saw about the trial was how the whole baby oil thing, you know, I know people were mocking him about it, but from what she's saying, I guess it's like true, like being made to bathe in baby oil so that you can be extra oily, you know, was just so ridiculous and so rude. Like, I just did not understand the whole thing. Like, he had some type of complex for sure. And also the whole thing of how he made her call him what she called her grandfather, or pop or something like that. I don't know, like, it was just so ridiculous and like very graphic and really just so unfortunate. And I'm just like, that settlement that Cassie got, honey, she deserved 100 times that, you know. And also, who knows what, you know, Diddy's ex-wife actually went through. And the irony of it is that Kimora was friends with Diddy's ex-wife. Her name escapes me now, but Kimora was friends with her, and like, who knows what she went through, because I don't think this started with Cassie, you know. I don't think it started with Cassie. I think this has been going on for a very long time, and a lot of people probably know the truth about what happened to her. It would be interesting if Kimora took the stand. I know some people are quite interested to see that Farnsworth Bentley do take the stand, because he was Diddy's assistant for a while, which maybe he was bound by an NDA, so he can't speak about it. But I mean, if he's subpoenaed by the court, so maybe he has to, and he can. But it'd be interesting to see what he has to say, because I know that he obviously, you know, worked with Diddy closely and knows a lot of different things, and that could be valuable to the court. And maybe, apparently, allegedly, maybe participated in that unwillingly. You know, maybe Diddy exerted his power onto him and made him do some things. You never really know, and I think that's why people want to know what the truth is, and, you know, what he went through, what his experience was, given that he was really close to Diddy and Kimora as well, because she knew she was best friends with his ex-wife, the mother of the twins. So it's only going to get messier. The Diddy case is ongoing, and we will continue to obviously pay close attention to the truths that are being unraveled and how everything plays out. Let's end this vlog on a lighter note. The race for the song of the summer is only heating up. So last week I was telling of how Ayra Starr released that Give Me That song, and really it's still been making me move my waist from side to side ever since, you know. But clearly Tyla and Lisa do not want to be left out of that race, because they released a video for When I'm With You on Friday, and it's been taking the world by storm. Like, it's, you know, when this vlog goes live, it'll be 7 days since it's released, and the When I'm With You video is lit. Like, they released, so it looks like the When I'm With You video by Tyla and Lisa, sponsored by Bossy or Bose, I don't know how you say it, but it looks like they're like a, you know, phone or computer accessories brand. So they have speakers, AirPods or whatever, So they sponsored the video. Video looks so amazing. It's definitely a summer song because it's very like, it's glistening. It looks like it's hot. And obviously I was speaking about Gimme That, you know, last week, that Ayra Starr release, which is, you know, still making me move my hips from side to side. And I love these two songs for very different reasons, and they're so good. But yeah, the competition is just getting hotter. Like, who will literally have the song of the summer? I'm so excited to see, you know, who's going to continue to release new music and what we're all going to be bopping to, what is going to be in high rotation. And, you know, there's space for all of them to all shine and to sizzle. So yeah, When I'm With You is such a very, like, it's a special song. It combines pop music, R&B music, and Amapiano with that beat and that drum. You know that iconic drum of Amapiano music that you hear at the back of every song, or most songs. So it's a very delicate combination of those elements and those genres. And also, I guess some people obviously saying there's like some K-pop energy in it because obviously it's Lisa's song. But the real story for me is this is actually a Tyla song. I know it's Lisa, When I'm With You featuring Tyla, but it's really Tyla, When I'm With You featuring Lisa, because the person who anchors the song, the sound that you hear, that energy, that's Tyla. That's a Tyla song. If you heard that song without knowing who sang it, you would definitely say it's Tyla, because her voice is so distinct and you can hear it. And obviously Lisa's part, she's kind of rapping in it, and she's obviously giving vocal, but her vocal sounds like Tyla. So I'm just like, maybe strategically they made this song a Lisa song because Tyla's camp wants to reach Lisa's audience, because Lisa's got such a big following. Like, she's got like 106 million followers or somewhere there, but she's got 100 plus million followers, and Tyla only has 11.3, which she should have more for what she's accomplished and what she obviously accomplished. But I mean, she's growing organically, so let's give her time. Yeah, I think maybe her releasing and owning the song is strategically to get that, you know, 90 something, almost 100 million plus followers that she has, more than Tyla, you know, and to make the song go viral. And at the moment, obviously, it's growing and growing and growing. I think it's almost on 5 million at the time of this recording, but it's growing and growing and growing, and it's a really good song. Love the melody, love the beats, love how refreshing and easy it feels, and it's definitely something you can dance to, something light beat. And also made me feel like the zeitgeist has definitely shifted. Like, there's a different generation of stars and people who are really being positioned to take over the key roles within the entertainment industry in terms of music. You know, there's obviously the void that Rihanna left with kind of leaving the industry, and I know she's released a song, Friend of Mine or something, for the Smurfs, but that's not really new music from Rihanna. That's kind of a full music thing, and even when you listen to it, it's not really like typically a Rihanna song. I know some people commenting and saying, well, maybe Rihanna's voice is gone, you know, they're not really feeling the song, it's not really a Rihanna song, and she made it for a film, so of course it's not going to be a Rihanna song, and of course you're not really going to feel it, and of course it doesn't count, and it really doesn't count. It doesn't count as new music, even though she's released a video for it on her YouTube and all of that stuff, and there's press around it, but it doesn't count as new music. We want, like, I guess, rated 9 or whatever, or some new body of Riri work that typifies what she used to deliver in the 2010s. So to say, we want her to reheat her nachos, but it doesn't look like she eats nachos, let alone wants to reheat them, you know. So, and in some ways I feel like it's okay. I think she's moved on from music, you guys, and if she's moved on from music, I think we need to accept her decision and let her run her beauty empire, Fenty Beauty, let her have her kids, let her still give us fashion, you know, and let us still see her from time to time, because she's in a different time, she's in a different, you know, space right now, and we just need to allow her to do that. So yes, while some people are waiting for her to release new music, I also feel like, girl, whatever you do, just keep doing it, and those who support her will support her even if she's not making new music. And if she does make new music, you know, if she does make new music at some point, maybe people might not even care, you know, because the Smurf song wasn't really a hit. People aren't really like going crazy about the fact that, oh no, she's making music, because it doesn't really count. So yeah, let her be, let Rihanna be, let her do her thing, and let others who are interested in being active in music take over and endorse those people. I don't think that she was ever going to be a career musician, not now that I think about it, because she's a very marketable girl. She can sell ice to an Eskimo, she can do so many different things. So I think for her it was a matter of, I'm going to sell this music career thing, but when I'm done with it and I want to move on, I'm going to move on to something else, and I'm going to sell the crap out of that and make a success of it. And she did with Fenty Beauty. So the girl knows how to move, and I think that's the agility you should have as a celebrity, you know, in order to have longevity, is to continuously reinvent yourself. So let her be the era she's in. Support these younger girls, Tyla, Lisa, Ayra Starr, releasing all this beautiful content for the summer. The Gen Z generation, you know, coming into the fore and being within the spotlight and giving us great content, you know. I'm all for endorsing them because the zeitgeist has shifted, and as it should, because the times are different, and the only thing they can do, these new girls, is to sustain it so they can build the equity that Riri and all these other girls, your Nickies, your Beyoncés, your Chris Browns, your and some of the other artists have built the equity that they've built to sustain themselves and the followings that they've built to sustain themselves. If they manage to do that within this time period, then they'll also be successful for the next 20 years, and people care about what they're doing for the next 20 years. So yeah, shout out to Tyla and Lisa for When I'm With You, although it is really Tyla's song, let's be honest. That's a shout out to Tyla for your song When I'm With You featuring Lisa. Anyway, babies, I hope you enjoyed this episode of The Messiest Bitch on the Internet. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and also follow us on Instagram at BigMoneyEntertainment_, and I'll see you again on the next one. Bye!